production systems, predominantly conventional cages, right? I'm a battery cage. And if I would just take a stop here on people who don't mind about animal welfare and say, if you are a farmer, lapho bona khona usufike to the level ukuthi lapha I'm producing, most people will say, lapha sengile ama-battery cage to house more and more hens, and because people want to produce more. And but then the problem is that this battery cage system, it takes the liberties of animals, and many countries are realizing this. So you improve production, you increase production, you have to give again on animal welfare. you put animal welfare at the forefront. It also has to do with how you limit your production. So anyway, countries or European countries are moving towards banning of battery cages because they significantly affect animal health. So the welfare of hens in egg production is a topic which is really gaining much momentum. There have been efforts to improve the living condition of hens, driven by increased awareness of animal welfare issues among consumers, activists, and policymakers. So this is against the realization that animals are sentient beings, and I want to drive this home. Animals, like human beings, are sentient. What do I mean? They have the ability to experience subjective feelings, emotions, and sensations. And so animals also, like humans, feel pain. They feel fear. They feel discomfort. So if animals are like that, then in order to produce and have quality produce, you need also to entail animal health and animal welfare into your production mechanisms. Because if you are producing animals which are subject to these feelings and you are not cognizant of them, it means then you are producing animals that are not healthy in essence. He has talked about calcium. Yeah, I'll just highlight a few. So animal welfare has to do with the ethical consideration and treatment of animals. This is not where my presentation is based on, but I'm just touching it as an introduction so that you be able to understand where we are coming from and where we are going, right? So we need to understand that animals are sentient beings, and being sentient, we need also now to ensure that their welfare is maintained, right? In as much as humans are sentient, so we have to consider the feelings of humans. We have to consider that they are also subjective to pain. So we have to consider those feelings also for animals, for the sake of One Health, which he talked about, and I think my sister also highlighted on that. So in a way, when we're talking about animal welfare, we also have to highlight animal freedoms, right? I say this is not my presentation, but I want you to know this, that animals are sentient and also their freedom. So the 5 freedoms of animals: freedom from hunger and thirst, right? As human beings, they also feel what? Hunger and thirst. Freedom from discomfort, freedom from pain, injury, and disease, freedom to express normal behavior, freedom from fear and distress, right? So this is what we are talking about. So when we are talking about egg production, and I've already highlighted that as people try to maintain or increase their productivity, most of them go towards this battery cage system where they house hens in confined zones, and so that they maximize space. And so as they do that, they are also infringing on the 5 freedom of animals. So the confinement, lack of space, behavioral restrictions, and potential health risks associated with battery cages can compromise the well-being of and freedoms of hens, right? So in Europe, in the EU, they've banned battery cages as of 2012, right? So I'm now zeroing into the state now of hen warfare, because people now are realizing that battery cages, they are a problem. They are now phasing them out. So in EU, they've started this, and as of 2012, they were starting to phase out and ban what? Battery cages. But there is a problem again, and the problem is that most of these battery cages, they export them to where?
Africa and Asia.
Africa and Asia, right? So even if they are banning in Europe, it's posing a problem to where? To Africa and Asia. I'll just focus on Africa because that's where we are, right? So each battery cage can house many hens. I've highlighted that. But then it's a problem. So the challenge of battery cages, the state of warfare with regards to battery cages, is that they cause prickly bones. So saying modern commercial hens have been bred to produce large numbers of eggs, which depletes their hen store of calcium and can result in high levels of osteoporosis. And yeah, I said the ancestral hen only laid how many? 60 a year. And many instances, in many commercial farms, it's the productivity of each hen should be more than 300 or 300 and upwards, right? So which is about 5 times what the normal hen should do, right? Yeah. Number 2, the African hen was a free-ranging animal. These ones are confined, right? So on top of that, it is now stressed in terms of laying eggs. There's another problem of what? Of confinement, right? Lack of exercise, not able to express their normal behaviors, right? Yeah. When we're talking about normal behaviors of hens, we are talking about pecking, right? We are talking about dust bathing. We are talking about resting in those items called roosting, right? So if they are not able to maintain that, also has an effect on their bone structure. It also has an effect on their overall animal health. Number 2, feather pecking. Most of these farms, you realize that where the hens are kept in battery cages, there is extreme feather pecking, because it's an outward indicator of stress, right? To see that your hens are stressed, you will see with what they are doing, right? I said a normal behavior of a hen is to what? To forage and look for things to eat, pecking, right? But if those things are taken away from it, it will express it to other hens and start what? Plucking each other's what? Feathers. That's a sign of what? Of stress. Number 3, salmonella. Even though it is often claimed that confined hens are better protected from infection, a survey by the European Food Safety Authority found that eggs produced in cages are most likely to be contaminated with salmonella than those produced in cage-free systems, right? So this was a survey. I will not zero on that. Cage-free systems. It is another trend. People are moving to cage-free and free-range, right? Cage-free systems, we have, I will not talk about that one. Cage-free systems, many countries are shifting from traditional battery cages towards cage-free. Hens in cage-free systems have more space to move around. This transition has been driven by consumer demand for human practices, right? I want to talk about this point a little bit, because it is driving me towards what I want us to come up with as consumers, as producers, as retailers, and people who lead to a movement which people ban battery cages are consumers. They have more power than actually people believe. And if people who are consumers start and boycott buying eggs produced in battery cages, what do you think will happen? Just a thought. If people who buy eggs because they are produced in battery cages, what do you think will happen?
They lose the market.
They lose the market, which means farmers to stay in business will need to transition to what? To cash-free systems, right? So one of the critical areas we as a welfare organization is to lobby consumers to realize that they can affect what farmers can do, right? For the sake of their health, one, and for the sake of the health of what? Chickens or other animals. We have a power. You can say, no, we can't do this, right? You can boycott even retailers that are selling what? Eggs from source from where? From battery cages. Or opt to buy those from cage-free systems, right? So one of the major points or the major take-homes from this seminar is that we realize that as consumers we can initiate a movement which leads to what? Discarding of battery cages. And challenges and concerns are also cage-free systems. They can be crowded conditions, big trimming and male chick culling. And so I just said here I'm just giving an overview of the state of animal welfare. And I want to say we are transitioning from battery cages to cage-free systems, but still they'll stock more than what is the land is able to take in, and so which leads to crowded conditions as well, which is not good. Big trimming. Abanye abantu they go further and do big trimming to ensure that inkukhu azinjani azilumani, ezinye futhi azinjani azidla amaqanda. So to prevent cannibalism and further packing in crowded conditions, big trimming is a common practice, which is a controversial procedure which causes pain and affects hens' ability to eat and drink. So in the EU again, this has been banned, but in America, some states have not banned this. And in Zimbabwe, if I may ask, do you think if one wants to do big trimming, we are about to, or what? We are still practicing, right? So this is what we also need to be cognizant of when we are talking about animal welfare. I think, yeah. So let's talk about current trends, which is where my presentation really wants. I want us to put this focus to. And as of 2012, the EU has banned battery cages. In United States, they are still there. Some states are also doing it. Some have banned it. And this is what is happening on a global stage. Let's focus on Africa. The current state of hen welfare in egg production in Africa varies widely from country to country. So in some countries such as South Africa and Kenya, there is a growing concern, growing awareness of the importance of hen welfare, and some progress has been made in improving conditions for laying hens. I think Ogunye will understand when we are talking about the Africa ranking report, right? Where really we are as Africa. However, in other countries such as Nigeria, Ethiopia, hen welfare is often poor and there is little legislation or regulation in place to protect hens. And what do you think is the state of things here in Zimbabwe? And I don't want to talk much. I want us to to understand the current state here in Zimbabwe. And I think umuntu says Zimbabwe will have an answer here. What do you think?
Before I say what I think, I would ask you a question. What's the size of a KJ1 in getting two?
What is the size of the battery cage?
Manjo, what's the size of the cage in getting kukulia? It's the size of an exercise. In cook, I don't get the size of the exercise. So I will not say the state of you in Zimbabwe, but what I know is we are advocating for more cages. That's our advocacy, even at policy level. So possible.
Advocating for ban of cages?
No, not yet. As a state, for the organizations, we are saying let's ban cages. But as a state, we are saying we need to bring more cages.
Okay. And so, in say deliberately that if you are a farmer and you want to increase production, what do you do?
So I'm going with this step. I think in one which is not discarded, it means that we're giving a but it's president picture. So in greater space, almost 30 tier, because we're working till 30 tier pants. Another thing that I forgot is talking about our restrooms. I know Emma Jensen up, Emma ladies in up, man. Emma ladies, Emma Jensen procedures, you figure for second in our restrooms. So currently, man, we're also presenting. No, I present. We do breakfast here. We do come sister in the past.
Yeah. So Usiko was talking about conventional cages are very small and cramped, and hence are unable to express their natural behavior, such as nesting, perching, and foraging. As a result, hens in cage systems often suffer from a wide range of problems, including feather loss, bone fractures, and cannibalism. And anyway, we will presentation on animal welfare on battery cages, but I wanted us to see zero in on Africa and zero in on Zimbabwe. And so Mr. Silva has already shared Duguti as a state. We're advocating for importation of what? Battery cages. One, they are cheap because most people want to discard them. Two, we still want to see increase our production. But on the other hand, as welfare organization, we are also saying no, battery cages are not okay because what? They limit in animal welfare. Sandra.
Yeah, I also wanted to add on, to say thank you for, the good work that you are doing, guys. Huh? But what we need to do more is on awareness raising and even in terms of lobbying so that the consumers know what they are actually consuming, what is the impact. And also the last thing that there are two things that I also wanted to raise. Number one, we are going to cause a lot of damage to the environment. How do we then dispose of those cages in the event that they are no longer in use? Right? Waste management issue there. Then the other issue that we really need to do, I think we need to stress more on, let's say, when these policies are being formulated or being crafted, consultations with the farmers. Because there's been a trend whereby policies are being formed somewhere, and they come as an imposition to the consumers, yet they don't have an input into some of these policy formulations. So I think it's very critical what you are actually doing. You need to go an extra mile in terms of how we can even advocate and lobby for the total ban of these cages. And the dangers that we're actually exposing our people on or to. I think this is very important to go an extra mile. Yes, we know we might be arrested because if you read the patriotic view, sometimes there are certain things that we are not supposed to be saying. But as citizens, I think we are doing this for the sake of our people, right? So we need to go an extra mile. This is very crucial. This is very important, Mr. Silva. You need to go an extra mile. Thank you so much for the good work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming with Zoita, you're saying a powerful point on lobbying and everything else. Actually, Unko-san, you asked a question on how we are going to dispose the cages. Unfortunately, we are the dustbin of the cages. That's the statement that I can use.
Yes.
Europe and America and part of Asia are disposing their cages to Zimbabwe, Botswana, and other African countries. So we will be the last to have all those cages after they've disposed them at a cheaper value. They are now coming at a cheaper value because they are now banned in their countries. And maybe for your own information, we're buying most of our cages through Botswana. Most of our cages we're buying them through Botswana. Because they are sending them to Botswana and we buy them through Botswana, and we buy a number of them from China. China is doing a shift now. It's one of the countries that was most difficult to work on this, but they are doing a shift. I was in an Asian conference now, and China is agreed that they are doing a shift. And you find that the whole of Asia is doing a shift. What's left is now Africa. So we are the dumping bin of those cages. We need to stop them from coming in at the earliest moment before we face the challenges ahead. So I think that's where the situation is. And then on the issue of policy that Nkosana were talking about, the biggest challenge that we have is the farmers that have the biggest egg producing farms are not individuals like me and you, they are politicians. And we have been through one thing that we can share. I'm no longer afraid, I've gone through that. We have done undercover investigations, went into farms, and some of those farms would be told who owns this farm when we were already in. We have pictures of how hens are cruelly treated in those farms. That's why I said, we would go together into your farm. So we have pictures that if we could show you, I think in one of the protections you won't eat meat, you won't eat that egg, because you will see the cruelty in that farm. It also goes on Master's advocacy that we need to advocate for abantu abasebenza emapulazini. Because they are forced to eat that meat if you are generation as part of the salary. Even though I phone, now we call this yoga to that thing. So we need to go beyond the particular system. We need also to advocate for abantu abasebenza emapulazini, so that those humans are not affected. So I think those are things that we wanted to share with you. That information and the we are dealing with politicians, we are dealing with big faces. We have big farms that one of them we totally failed. We tried 4 or 5 times, Zambo accessive farm, but we failed. The other one we left in a husk. So let's work on that and try and improve on our farming system. But like you say, let's engage our parliamentarians. Let's engage the communities, let's engage the consumers. We'll see what we in our later.
Let me just finish up. I think my time is almost up. I wanted to do 20 minutes. I want to highlight some challenges in Africa. And at the end, I want us to understand why I'm putting this. So in Nigeria, most hens in Nigeria are kept in where? In battery cages. And so there's a study done by Compassion in Home Farming, which found that hens in Nigeria cage-free systems suffer from a wide range of animal welfare problems, including feather loss, bone fractures, and cannibalism. A study in Ethiopia says there is a lack of awareness on the importance of hen welfare. And a study in South Africa, also by an organization called Animal Welfare South Africa, has also found that though there is a shift, but many countries, many producers are still using what? Battery cages. Why did I put this? I wanted to challenge you, farmers, and also welfare organizations. You see, these people who are conducting studies, they are doing critical studies and then publishing them. So we also need as welfare organizations to what? To do research and publish. And probably I'll talk to guys from agricultural colleges. Some of the projects you may encourage students to do has to do with investigation on these issues, so that timely information may be produced. And if timely information is produced, it can be readily available to people, so that they know the state of hen welfare. And by knowing, if you increase awareness, at one point you are changing the attitude of a person with regards to a certain issue. And most people are here who come to welfare meetings. They come, but they are not cognizant of the fact that hens in most farms are under severe stress and lack of animal welfare. But we are trying to educate you so that when you come out from these workshops, you are equipped, you know, and also you have a part to play to also disseminate the information to other people. And so knowledge is power. So as we equip with knowledge, as we learn, we also teach others. And we're all doing this. Uguti City, the consumers know Uguti. I'll also highlight this. I have already said it. Uguti, the consumers know Uguti. They have a part, they have power to influence policy making with regards to what? Banning of battery cages. I've seen Mr. Mchegezi, the guy from Consumer Council, welcome say, but I think I want to drive this point. You also need to teach our consumers on the implications of
Sit. I think there's a free seat there, Mr. Mchegezi.
Or the implications of animal welfare issues with battery cages and how consumers can be made aware of how do they have a part to play in ensuring that these are banned. And so lastly, I will talk about this, what can be done. And so government should introduce legislations and regulation to protect hens. So the legislation should ensure or require egg producers to use more humane housing systems and to provide hens with access to basic welfare standards. Egg producers should invest in more humane housing systems. And so I'm talking probably Bulama government officials. They also should drive the point of what you are making legislations that ensure hen welfare. Farmers, even though the legislation is gonna do away with battery cages, as farmers also have an initiative. Let me just do away with this and focus on this. And mind you, if we are the first farmers who go into cage-free systems, remember, my legislation is Zimbabwe, which banned battery cages. Already when you had what? You had an advantage because you are not using them. Two, Usanela, she always highlights, I think she will also highlight, they also help in telling about, there is a farm which sells what? Eggs from what? Free range systems. And so we promote when they do it that way, you have a market. There are people who are also to buy eggs from what? From free range systems. And I think there was another workshop here, and someone was saying he knows a farmer who uses battery cages, but she does not eat eggs from her farm. She goes and buys eggs from where? From a food lovers. Free range eggs. And so if someone who is producing eggs and selling them to you, it shows you she knows or they know that they have problems. And so we need to understand that. I think we need to drive this. So we've talked about producers shifting. We also need food corporations and retailers. And so we also have to work TM or Pick and Pay, okay, to ensure they commit to sourcing eggs from where? From cage-free systems. And if retailers now will take part and say we are not sourcing eggs from your farm because you are violating animal welfare, then people will change. And lastly, consumers should choose eggs from more humane housing systems. And consumers have the power
So asoze ngibe ngisukuma ngisithi ngicela ukuthi ngicela ngabona phansi kwakho sebuyile uzisukumele voluntarily nje. You take care of your tummy.
So this will send a message to egg producers that consumers are willing to pay for eggs from hens that have been raised in a human way. And consumers, if you send that message, you say no, we want those, and we want eggs from cage-free systems, and then it sends a message to the producers, no, let's just go what? Free range or cage-free. Lastly, I want us to talk about the work we have done. Some of the work we have done is Sibani. So as Sibani, we have secured an agreement with the Imazai farm in Harare to reduce battery cages. And so they've committed to they want to reduce, and finally they keep the battery cages from their production. Also, another farm called Umtali Farm has cancelled their order of importation of battery cages. And so through this lobbying work, we are trying, we say, I don't know, I'm farmers who are here. Probably they will also say the sugar alphabet, you know what? We want to do away with what? Battery cages and focus on what? Free range system. So these are small strides really, but they are important nonetheless. And because each and every time we want to ensure one hen at a time, good animal welfare. Because in nature, Invelo Trust always says a good cage is a what? Is an empty cage. And so a good cage is an empty cage. So that's what we're also advocating for. So we also go and do workshops with schools, with universities. Our idea, or it stems from Muti. If we introduce and teach people, they will also teach people. And also if we teach abantu who are studying towards agricultural degrees, then they will implement it where they are going to work. Finally, we will ensure that we improve hen welfare. I think that's what